All right, guys. Again, this is buying a house in Austin, Texas. We're going to mostly talk about what it's like buying a house in Austin, Texas today, which is 2021. So anybody watching this, it changes all the time. It's mostly all going to be the same, but some of the tactics are going to change over time. And we are going to talk about tactics today on how to buy a house. So this is, okay, real quick, this is residential real estate. So if you're looking at commercial real estate, completely different. We are not going to talk about commercial real estate tonight. So if you're looking to buy a strip center, an apartment building, an industrial complex, completely different than what we're talking about here tonight. There might be some overlap there, but this is residential. So you're buying a house or you're buying a duplex or a condo or a fourplex, this is all going to apply. First step, get your finances in order. Becca is the queen of that. So we're going to have Becca talk here real quick and talk about what it means to get your finances in order when you're looking to buy a house, how you can do that, and who you need to talk to.
Yeah, so I'm continuing. There's still a few people coming in. So if you see me move my eyes or something, I might be omitting someone. But yeah, I mean, I think the first and most important step in the process, I mean, it's always great, chatting with a realtor, Jordan can help you out with that to get started, just to kind of get your juices flowing. But really what you need to know is what you can afford and making sure that it's within your budget. Sometimes what you can afford is more than what you're actually comfortable with. So being able to just know those numbers starts to answer a lot of questions. So, chatting with a lender like myself first and getting fully pre-approved. So I think there are terms really quickly. Of course, Jordan asked me before, what do you want to talk about? Now this is just coming up on the top of my head. But the difference between a pre-qual or a pre-qualification and a pre-approval is basically the reviewing of your documents. So application and credit is just the pre-qualification. So it's based on something, but not really verifying things. A pre-approval means that we've verified it and also run it through our automated underwriting system. And really in Austin with a competitive market, you really want to be fully pre-approved. So that way, if you find something, you can jump on it right away and we know that we're good to go. My goal is to anticipate what's going to occur and any hurdles that we might have in the future and see if we can go ahead and clear those up so that we don't have them in the future and we can enjoy the process. My goal is to make it fun. So as the slide says, you really don't need as much as you think. I think there's a big myth that you have to put 20% down, but if you're buying a primary residence, a residential property, that's absolutely not true. So there are programs with 0% down. There are some down payment assistance programs kind of coming back online post-COVID. For the most part, you're going to need 3 to 5% down. But for some, we will be able to look at some of the 0% down or down payment assistance. So you just kind of plan on that, but it's definitely not 20%. Again, talking to me and working with me is essentially free. It's not going to cost you. I'm actually paid in a different capacity. Same thing with a realtor with Jordan, like we're paid in a different way. So you're not ever paying us directly. And so we are here on your team as your advocate to help you along the way. And definitely last one, we wanted to know the Austin area. So there's certain quirks about Austin right now that Jordan will go over. It's really important for someone to know that. So for me, for example, one of the quirks right now is appraisals taking forever and a day. So normally I would wait to order an appraisal until after that option due diligence period. But right now I'm ordering it right away because if something happens during the option period, we can cancel it. But if I don't order it right away, it's not going to make it in time to make sure that we close. So that's just kind of a quirk of the Austin market that because I'm in it, I know, and I can kind of act accordingly. Whereas if you have a lender that's out of touch with that, they're just not going to know those quirks. So anyway, it's really helpful to start to get all of the numbers put together. I feel like clients have so much more confidence in moving forward and I get excited moving forward, knowing what their numbers are.
Yeah, I love that. A couple things I want to talk about. Again, I'm not a lender. Becca is. She knows this stuff way better than I do, but I did make this slide. I added this use a lender who knows the Austin areas. I said you'll thank yourself later for a couple reasons. I've dealt with a lot of buyers from out of town in the last few months, almost all of them had a lender in their area who did not get it done on time, who ended up being a complete hassle. It was just painful, painful, painful. You don't want to deal with it. The listing side is mad at the buyer because the buyer's not closing on time. They feel like the buyer's trying to pull one over on them. They're probably not. They're probably just behind because they didn't order the appraisal day one and they're running into issues. And that being said, you can't just go tell your lender, hey, order the appraisal day one and not deal with any issues. You really want a lender that works and knows the Austin area all the time, like Becca, who's going to help you overcome the issues that you run into here in Austin. Couple things I want to talk about more on lending that not directly related to lending, but when you're buying, let's say a multifamily property to live in. So tonight we're just talking about buying residential property, but if you're buying, let's say a duplex to a fourplex to live in, you know, Becca can talk more about this, but they use the potential rents from the other units or the in-place rents from the other units to help you qualify. So take myself, for example, in 2016, I was looking to buy my first house. I didn't make very much money. In 2016, I was approved for $170,000 for a single family house, one house. For a duplex, 2 units, I was approved for $250,000. Huge difference. So know that, and know you're working with a lender that also knows that and can work with that stuff. One last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll let Becca kind of wrap it up with this. I talked to a lender years before I was able to buy a house. I called this lender. I said, hey, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a duplex to live in. What do I need to do? He had me send him over some basic stuff. I think I filled out a loan application even. And he said, hey man, your credit's a 550. You need to get some stuff together. Go buy a credit card at your bank. Your bank will give you a secured line of credit. So I gave the bank $300. They gave me back a line of credit on that $300. So I had such bad credit, I had to give the bank the money for them to loan me money. But I wouldn't have been able to buy a house if I would have, like Becca said, if I would have just showed up right then and said, hey, I want to buy a house. It said, sorry, dude, your credit's terrible. You can't buy a house. So it always helps to talk to a lender early. It's going to make this process so much easier as you go on. You might think, oh, I'm not ready to buy for a year or maybe 2. But if you talk to a lender a year or 2 early, like I did, you're going to be in so much better shape when it comes time to buy.
Definitely. I second that. And I actually am helping someone right now that their lease isn't up until April. And so you think, well, gosh, this is really early to get started. But what they wanted to know was, what do we qualify for? What do we need to save? What is our monthly payment going to be? And then also we talked about timeline. So one interesting thing to keep in mind is that when you close on a loan, your payment isn't due right away. So let's pretend that we close in January on a loan. Then your first payment actually isn't due until March 1st. So we can work together to sort of line up when your lease is ending with when your new payment is, and whether you're comfortable with that overlapping for a month or definitely not. We need to make sure it's staggered, but you may actually be able to close on a home before your lease is all the way up and still not have that doubled up. So just having those sort of conversations can be really helpful. And as Jordan said, I mean, if there's something to work on, then you have built-in time to work on it. And that's really great, as opposed to, hey, I'm 2 months out. And then the answer is we have to work on something on credit. And then it's a bit more crushing, if you will, as opposed to, oh no, I'm a year out. I know I'm a year out. Do I need to work on anything? Okay, cool. I've got a year to work on it.
Yeah. You never want to be in a hurry with this stuff. So, you know, Becca can look at your whole file, they call it file, and say, hey, you know, if you have this big credit card balance on this credit card, or maybe you owe a few grand left on your car, we're 2 years out, let's work on paying those 2 things off or this one thing off. And you're going to qualify for so much more. With debt to income, just the little payment affects so much of what you're qualified for that you just won't believe it. So talk to a lender early, talk to a lender much earlier than you think you're going to need to talk to a lender, and you're going to be in a lot better shape going forward. All right, moving on here. You're gonna need to, so this is after you've talked to a lender and just gotten an idea of what you're able to afford. You're gonna want to figure out, hey, based on what I can afford, where can I live and where do I want to live? So I know in Austin, there's lots of different areas that I absolutely would live. I would love to live right over here, right by Lake Austin. Can I afford to live by Lake Austin? Probably not. It's probably not going to fit my budget. It's not going to work out well for me. You know what? I live over on this side on East Austin, but I love living in East Austin. For me, I had to say, hey, where can I afford to live? Where do I want to be? For me, I wanted to be relatively close to downtown. So right over here is where I am. And that's awesome for me. You know, would I love to be right here? Yeah, totally. But I don't want to spend $2 million, nor can I right now. So figure out what you can afford, talk to the lender first, then figure out where you want to live and what things you want to be close to. For me, it's more important to be central because I'm a real estate agent and I'm running all around here all the time. But for most people, you don't need to be right next to downtown. If you work downtown, that's great, but typically a commute isn't the worst thing ever. You know, you might want to be 5 to 10 minutes from a gym that you like. That's really important to me. I want to be close to a gym that I enjoy. So I always have to find a place that's close to gyms that I like to go to. I go to the gym every morning. If I'm 25 minutes away from a gym that I can tolerate, it's not going to be a very enjoyable experience for me. We're not going to talk about house hacking a lot here, but even when you're house hacking is buying a property and renting out all the other spaces except what you're occupying. That's what I'm doing here. Probably going to want to like where you live too. If you just absolutely hate it, you're not going to continue to do it. I've never hated where I've lived, and I've been doing this since 2016. I've been living in a duplex. I live in one unit, I rent the other unit. Been doing that for a while. I'm probably going to keep doing that for a while. But, you know, figure out generally what you want. There can be some flexibility to that, but you really need to have an idea where you want to be before you start looking. You know, Austin can be longer drives from certain areas. So if you're out where Becca is and you work in South Austin, that's going to be a drive. That might not work for you. You know, if you're working in South Austin, you might want to be on the south side of the city. So at least you have a general idea. Hey, I want to be south of the river. I don't want to get stuck in 35 or stuck on the Mopac trying to get through downtown Austin. But if you work up in North Austin with that, all the tech stuff up there, you're probably not going to want to be down off Slaughter. Probably not going to want to be down in Buda or Kyle or Bastrop. Just figure out, you can have some flexibility. Maybe you're north of the river. That's a lot of flexibility, but you at least want to have a little bit of an idea. With real estate, with buying a home, with investing in real estate, whatever you're going to do, read books, talk to others who are living the life you want. Maybe they are successful property owners, investment property owners. Maybe they have a house in a neighborhood like you'd want to be in. You know, I know if I wanted to move to Cedar Park, I'd talk to my friends that lived in Cedar Park and say, hey, what's it like? Where do you like? What do you not like? Where should I look? Of course, there's going to be some bias there, but just start to talk to those people and get some ideas. You have anything to add, Becca?
I think my only thing to add would be that I second what you're saying, but also keeping in mind that everyone's situation is different. And so don't let getting the feedback from other people be discouraging to you. Because just keep in mind, you know, someone may have a house that's worth, you know, a lot right now, but they also at one point started off where you're starting off and buying their first home and maybe didn't have as much down or maybe had to work on credit. Like, you know what I mean? So talking to people that are maybe further along in their journey with real estate ownership, you want to get their feedback on the area, but you don't want to feel like discouraged to get started. Because trust me, everyone's had their first time. Everyone's sort of been in those shoes before. So kind of keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I think that's super important in Austin now too. So I mentioned my friends in Cedar Park. They bought that home in the low 200s. It's probably worth closer to 5 now, but they bought it 7 years ago. So yeah, I would talk to them just to know about the areas, but I probably want to talk to somebody that bought in Cedar Park in the last year. If I want to live there, say, hey, Who do you know who just moved here? Get their experience, understand what they went through to buy a house. I think that's really important. Really good point, Becca. Austin's moving so quickly. You know, you could talk to somebody that bought in East Austin for 50 grand 20 years ago. Now their house is worth 400,000. Like it's, you got to talk to somebody that bought in the last year. Thankfully for you, if you were looking to buy now, you've got it easier than people did a few months ago. So you're probably not going to go wrong talking to people that bought in the last year because they had it harder than you. All right, we've got again, find a realtor you trust, find a realtor you like. Doesn't have to be me. I'm not the only realtor in Austin, I can tell you that much. I love working with people, I love helping people in the Austin area, but there's tons of realtors out there. You want to find someone who you enjoy communicating with, that you can communicate with easily, and that has experience doing what you want to do. So I think that's so important. I think that's overlooked so much. So many times people say, oh, I've got this realtor friend, this person I know, or this person that somebody else I knows, and maybe they live in Lakeway and you're looking to buy a house in East Austin. Maybe you're looking to buy a duplex to live in East Austin, and this person lives in a nice community in Lakeway. Completely different. Maybe they've done that in the past. That can be some experience, but I know for me, I know what I do. I know what I can help people with. And I think it's really important to find a realtor that knows that stuff. You know, if you're looking to do a certain thing, find somebody that's doing it, find somebody that knows that. You know, I help a lot of first-time home buyers. I'm really good at that. I'm not so good at helping people that are going to retirement homes. I just don't have that experience. I don't have the experience doing that. I don't have the experience doing it myself. Do I have experience buying my first home and being in my early 30s, late 20s buying homes? Yeah, I've done a lot of that. Goes without saying, this realtor should be based in Austin. There are some realtors that are, however, far away from Austin. Maybe, hopefully they're not more than an hour or two, but that try to sell homes in Austin. I've worked with realtors out of Houston before who are trying to sell homes in Austin. And it's really painful for me. It's probably really painful for their client. If you're going to buy in Austin, work with a realtor in Austin. And know that you can reach out to this person at any time, and you can request to see homes at any time. If they're not able to show you these homes at these times, or that's just too late for them or too early for them, they're going to let you know. But realtors are not 9 to 5. We work on your schedule. That's what we signed up for. We knew that from the beginning. Realtors, if you didn't know that from the beginning, I don't know who told you otherwise, but that's just how it is. Sorry. I'm here on a Zoom 7:30 at night on a Thursday. That's just part of the gig. I enjoy it. I love doing it, but understand that you, the buyer, are the important part. You can reach out to your realtor at any time, and you can expect a reasonable response time. So when you're looking to buy a home, you need to go look at homes. I know this is probably a little different today than it was 3 years ago, but still you got to get out there and you got to pound the pavement. It doesn't have to be cold calling, knocking doors, that kind of stuff, but you need to call a realtor. You need to set up showings. So if you're going to buy a house, you need to view a lot of houses in some capacity or another. I can't tell you how many I looked at before I bought my first one. Probably somewhere around 50. I'm sure the realtor that was helping me, I was not licensed, hated it, but it was just what I needed to do to be comfortable. Open houses are super easy. They can be fun. You can set up a tour of open houses on a Saturday or Sunday. You could probably go see 5 or 6 in a couple-hour time period, maybe more. It can be nice and light and airy, but at some point in time, you'll actually need to set up showings with your realtor to see homes that don't have open houses. I've had lots of clients be reticent to reach out, and they don't want to bother me, and they think I'm busy and I got other stuff going on. Always reach out to your realtor and say, hey, I saw this house pop up. When can we see it the next day or two? That's totally normal. That's totally fine. Zillow and realtor.com are not a substitute for seeing houses in person. They're all different. They all look so different. You're going to feel so different about them when you pull up to them. compared to just seeing them online. My job as a listing agent when I'm listing properties is to make them look as good as possible online. You might see something online and say, wow, this looks amazing. You might pull up and say, wow, this neighborhood is a dump. I don't want to live here. This is terrible. And it's my job as a listing agent to kind of just show you the best parts. I'm not hiding anything. I'm just showing you the best pieces of a house. So when you're working with a buyer's agent, you're the buyer, go see these properties. You'll need to learn specific areas and what different homes in Austin look like. Different homes in Austin, it's more going to be different ages of homes, different areas. But you might say, I really don't want to live in this area. I don't like the houses here. I don't like the aesthetic. I don't like the landscape. But you want to live out in Leander where it's beautiful and hilly and there's tons of trees. That might be your spot. You know, it might be convenient for you. You might really enjoy going to it. You're not going to know that until you see a bunch of houses, you see different land, you can really figure out what you want to do. Becca, I know you've got some experience with this. You guys have lived a couple interesting different places.
Yes, we have. I had a couple thoughts. I was just trying to write them down so I wouldn't forget them. I second the Zillow and Realtor.com or any site. They're just not substitutes. Think about it a little bit like when you're booking a hotel room. And you look at all the hotel pictures and then you actually show up at the hotel and then maybe it meets your standards, maybe it doesn't. I've had a couple hotel experiences recently that did not match the pictures. Not that a listing agent is purposely going to do that, but just thinking of it that way, like Jordan said, it's going to be the best aspects with the best lighting and things like that online. You want to be there in person to see all of the nooks and crannies, see the neighborhood, the energy of the house, whatever it is that you feel, and just really get in there and see it. What else was I going to say? I think also this is another reason why knowing your numbers beforehand is really helpful, so that you're actually looking at houses that are in your price point and within your monthly budget. And the reason I specify between those two is, like I said, sometimes what you qualify for sales price wise may be more than what your monthly payment comfort zone is. So finding out, okay, well, where is that sales price to match what my monthly payment comfort zone is, and what do houses in that zone, in that price point look like, as opposed to going and looking at houses and then finding out perhaps that you don't qualify for that price point. And then you need to look at different houses. So yeah, I wanted to say those things, but also keeping in mind that, your first house is not going to be your dream house. I've never met anyone that bought their first house and that was one and done, like never. So keeping in mind that it's not necessarily going to be perfect, and that there may be little things that you're going to tweak. There may be things you're going to fix. There may be something that, oh, well, it'd be nice to have this instead of that, but man, everything else really lines up. But just kind of keeping in mind, like your first house isn't necessarily like your dream house, but it's your starting of building your real estate portfolio, real estate wealth, whatever your plan is to do. Oh, you're on mute, Jordan.
We didn't really talk about this earlier, but I talked to so many people that say, oh, prices are up so much though. They just look at the sticker. They look at the sticker price. How much does this cost? How much a house costs doesn't really mean anything to you. It's about what is your payment. And why I talk about that is with interest rates where they are, which is very low, your payment might be a lot lower than you thought to buy that house, but you might say, wow, that house is so much more expensive than it was last year. And you're just looking at the sticker price. You're just looking at the sticker price. Most people, I want to say the average is 5 to 7 years in a house. And I always tell people, hey, if you're looking to sell this house next year, you need to have a really good plan to add a lot of value to it. Don't come in and say, I'm going to buy this fixed up nice house and I'm going to sell it next year and I'm going to make money. That's probably not a good plan. Make sure you go into it thinking, I'm going to stay in this house for a few years, 5 to 7 years. And when that's up, maybe I'll move on to the next house. But if you say, hey, I'm going to fix this house up, I'm going to redo it, that's fine if you want to move out in the next year or two. Remember, selling a house costs between 6 and 8%. So you're going to pay some realtor's fees. You're going to pay some closing costs. You might pay some of the buyer's closing costs. It's fairly expensive to sell a house. So when you're looking at a house, look at the payment and plan on staying there for a while. If you don't plan on staying there for a while, have a plan to improve the value of it so you can get out of it in the next year or two. But again, guys, it's all about payment. How much are you paying every month to live in that house? I'm gonna let you take that for a second. I gotta let the dog out.
All right. Yeah, sorry, I closed my door so that hopefully if my animals barked that they would not disrupt us. Yeah, so I totally agree with Jordan. I think it's really important, again, knowing your numbers, knowing what you qualify for and what that looks like in monthly payment. One little note, thinking about monthly payment is thinking about the elements of the monthly payment. So we have principal and interest, property taxes and homeowners insurance, possibly mortgage insurance as well. And then your HOA dues, they're technically paid separately directly to the HOA company, but I have to qualify you for the loan with accounting for those HOA dues. So it's really important as well, if you're looking at different properties and suddenly you switch from looking at maybe a single family home to looking at a condo, it's important to let me know that so that I can adjust and account for higher HOA dues, because that might mean then that your price point changes, being that your HOA, instead of being $25 or $50, is $150, $300, whatever the case is with condos. And of course, some of you may be panicking that HOA dues would be that high. Typically with the condo, the HOA dues cover a large portion, like they kind of like sometimes insure the exterior of the property. So your homeowner's insurance is much less. There's often amenities and things like that. So that's what the HOA dues are higher for on condos. But yeah, it's just important to kind of know what that is. So even though we have all the elements of the monthly payment and HOA, we want to know what all those numbers are so we can plan ahead. But yeah, what the price of the house is, of course, that determines sort of what the monthly payment is. But what you really need to think about is your funds out of pocket when you're purchasing. Like, how much do I need to buy this house? Because it's not just the down payment. How I think about it and try to explain it is you got 3 categories: down payment, closing costs, and prepaid and reserve items. Add all those together and that's how we get what you need. So we have that to consider. What's our out-of-pocket costs and what's our monthly payment cost? And it's kind of a Goldilocks situation of figuring out what is the right fit for you. And Jordan's back. You're still on mute though.
Sorry, we have bells and the dog kept ringing the bells. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it was getting kind of loud. She wanted out.
You're all good.
Real quick before we move on, other things HOAs can cover, and this is a whole thing of knowing the payments, knowing where everything goes towards. Some HOAs do cover some of your utilities. Some nicer condo buildings will have concierge, have other stuff that you don't have to pay for. You might not have a gym membership anymore because they have a nice gym in the condo. Make sure you understand everything. It's not as simple as just looking at the price. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just wanted to talk about that a little more. All right, so you've found some areas you've liked, you've figured out what you can afford, you've seen a bunch of houses, you're ready to make an offer. Maybe this is the first couple houses you've seen, maybe it's the 15th house you've seen. There's no right or wrong answer here. I've had people that have walked into the first house and said, this is it, I want this house. That is fairly uncommon that happens. Most of the time people will go through a few. It depends how good you are at the due diligence. You know, the people who've done that, they've been looking, they've been going to open houses, they've seen a lot before we start looking. You know, they've figured out what they can afford, they've looked at all these houses online, but most of the time you're going to need to go on a lot. That's okay. But if you see something you like, don't be afraid to make an offer. You don't need to have everything perfect and have everything together to make an offer. You do need a few things, and we're going to talk about those. Your first offer will most likely be rejected. So practice does not hurt. This is not saying that everything you put out there is going to be rejected. It doesn't mean always your first offers can be rejected, but most people I see, they're a little nervous to put together a really strong offer at first. So their first offer gets rejected. If you find a house that you really want, we're going to tell you how to get it here. The main things you're going to need for an offer are price the type of financing you're going to use, conventional FHA, VA, there's a couple other types. Becca can help you with that. You need a pre-approval. Like she's saying, you don't want a pre-qual. You absolutely don't want nothing. You need a pre-approval. You need to know how long it's going to take to close. Once upon a time, conventional loans were 30 days, FHA loans were 45 days. I think Becca can still close them in those time periods right now. I don't know a whole lot of lenders that are. So you need to know when you can close. Earnest money, that means how much earnest money you're going to put down. You need to know what earnest money is. We'll talk about that in a second. How much of an option fee you're going to put, and then how long of an option period you're going to have. Things you'll want to know before you make an offer. So ask your agent to ask this stuff. What does the seller need? They might need something specific that's not blatantly obvious. Most of the times, these kinds of things are lease backs. Maybe they want to leave all the stuff in the house and not deal with it. Stuff that's not going to bother you so much. I had a guy this last winter make an offer on a house, and he got an offer accepted 20 grand below the next highest offer because he was going to let the seller stay in the house for an extra month for $1. So him giving the seller a $1 rent for a month, while he probably could have rented that house for $1,500 to $1,800, saved him $20,000. So you need to look past that. And when you get a mortgage, you don't pay a mortgage for a month or two. Becca, correct me if I'm wrong, but most mortgages won't allow a lease back of more than 60 days, right?
That is technically correct. Yes.
So some ways around that that I know is just close later. Say, hey, we need a 3-month or 4-month lease back. Okay, we're not going to close for 2 months, and then we're going to give you a 2-month lease back. Easy way to do it. Maybe longer, just adjust however you can. You just really need to know that whatever you can before you make an offer. Sometimes you can even get guidance on pricing. I would not bet on this. Most good agents are not going to give you anything about their seller's motivation, the price they'll take, what terms they'll take. They'll give you some hints on the terms, but if you get a pricing guidance agent, yeah, that's very unlikely.
Yeah, Jordan, I actually really love that point, because I think we're in quite a competitive market. It's not as crazy as it was maybe even a few months ago. I think we have maybe some less buyers out there and definitely some more inventory, which is really helpful. But having an idea of what that seller, like, what is their, like, something to tick off their box. It might not even be something that they thought about. So like Jordan said, thinking of, well, do they have furniture that they don't want to move? Do they have walls that maybe are bold colors and you're not concerned about them repainting them? Whatever it is, it might just be a quirky thing that just really hits home for the seller and makes something that much easier for them, that they might be willing to take your offer over others. And the fact that you put the thought into really finding out what that is, hopefully will also be meaningful to them. Honestly, it's like any advantage that you can have in this market is really helpful. So take it.
Yeah. And real quick, just talk about stuff you need for the offer. Of course, the offer price is just how much you're saying I'm going to pay for the house. Why you need to know the financing type and the amount you're going to put down, is that needs to go into the contract. The pre-approval, pre-qual, or proof of funds, if you're going to buy it in cash, you need to show them that you're going to buy it in cash. You can get a letter from your banker, you can get a letter from your accountant, or you can just black out your account numbers on your bank account. This is important because it lets the seller know that you're able to buy this property. Earnest money is essentially your good faith deposit when you're going to buy a house. So when I'm going to buy a house, I need to put down something that shows the seller that I'm serious, I want to buy this house, and that they have some recourse if I don't abide by the terms of the contract. Earnest money can be gotten back if you back out during the option period, or if you have any other contingencies that let you out, like a financing contingency for buyer approval or an appraisal contingency for the value of the home. So if any of those don't work out, if you back out during the option period, if you lose your financing for some reason because you didn't talk to a lender early enough, you didn't learn what to do, or you went out and opened a bunch of credit cards when you're buying a house, you'll get your earnest money back. Or if the house doesn't appraise, you'll get your earnest money back. Option period. Option period is our due diligence period here in Texas, or your inspection period. That is the time that you get to do any due diligence you'd like on the property. That can be anything property related. It can anything around the property. In Texas, the option period is an unrestricted right to cancel. The reason why it's an unrestricted right to cancel, because you have that option fee there. That option fee is what you're paying for that unrestricted right to cancel. Now, it's important to remember, guys, earnest money is very easy to get back. If you back out during the option period or you go out one of your other contingencies, option fee is never refundable. But if you move forward, that gets put towards your down payment. So next year, we'll talk about how you can make an offer strong. Remember, price is not everything. Of course, price is most things. It's the biggest thing, but there are many ways to make your offer strong. Strong terms and knowing what the seller wants are key. Again, earnest money is refundable if you follow the terms of the contract. So if you're going to back out, make sure you're doing so because of the terms of the contract. I like to go, me personally, I like to go with 2% of the purchase price to make my earnest money look strong. Looks like I'm serious. I'm putting down a large portion of my down payment. I look serious about it. So what that means is if the purchase price is $500,000, I'm putting down $10,000 in escrow with the title company upon the acceptance of the contract. Now, if I back out because of the option period, or I lose financing, or the house doesn't appraise, I get my $10,000 back pretty quickly, within a few days usually. They'll either wire it to you or send a check. They have couriers come drop off a check. Really simple and easy. But earnest money, the way I think about it is essentially refundable if I'm just following the contract. So I don't worry about losing it. You don't need 7 to 10 days for an option period if you're efficient with your time. So I never get that long of an option period myself. I try to keep it as short as possible, just a tiny little bit of time so I can get in there and do what I need to do. But I'm doing what I need to do on time because I'm planning ahead. We schedule inspections either before the offer is accepted if we can. So I'll reach out to our preferred inspectors and say, hey, we're putting an offer out there. Can you go see this place tomorrow? And they say, yeah, we've got tomorrow at 10 a.m. Perfect. If not, we have enough resources where we can get something scheduled within a day or two, meaning we get the inspector out there within a day or two. And I routinely do 3-day option periods. One of the last ones, well, the last couple I worked on with clients, we got it accepted on, let's say, a Sunday night. On Monday morning, we had the inspector out there. On Monday evening, we had the inspection back. On Tuesday, we were doing the negotiations. Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning, we're done with the negotiations. We're pending. We have the appraisal order. We're moving forward. Super easy stuff. This doesn't happen if you're not on the spot with it. If you're not figuring out, can I get the inspection done? Can I have this person go out there? You need to be proactive. Don't schedule a 3-day option period if you don't know any inspectors. That's a really bad idea. I do that because I have a team of inspectors that I can call and make sure stuff happens really quickly. But do that when you know you can do that. Don't schedule a 3-day option period. Most likely you'll get it extended if you need to, but it's just a risk. And what you're risking is your option fee. Again, your option fee is never refundable. And if you put a strong option fee down, which is part of a strong offer, you're showing them you love the property, but you're also risking losing that money if you're not efficient with your time. I like to do $500 or more on option fee, knowing I'm never going to get that money back, but I probably am going to buy that property, and that's going to go towards the down payment. If you love the property, show them that. If you give them a $2,000 option fee because you just love this property in Cedar Park, know you're going to buy it, unless something terrible comes up, but that $2,000 is going to go towards your down payment. It's going to make the seller feel really comfortable that, hey, I'm going with William. he may have had a little lower offer, but if William backs out, I get to keep $2,000. I recently sold a property in Cedar Park for a seller. We had a $500 option fee on this offer. Highly desirable neighborhood, highly desirable house. They backed out. She was so excited. She got to keep this $500. She cackled on the phone when I told her they were backing out. She goes, well, I get to keep the money, right? I said, yep. I said, great. So no, you're not getting that money back, but put strong option fees down when you're serious about houses, and the sellers are going to take you seriously too. Strong earnest, strong option is probably more attractive than strong earnest. Why I go higher on the earnest is because I know I'm getting it back as long as I follow the terms of the contract. This next one is kind of a point of contention in the real estate industry right now. I love to do it. I encourage everybody else to do it. Write a cover letter, guys. Even if it's an investment property, write a cover letter. I've had them work so many times. I've had people buying investment properties, send them, and the seller says, wow, I really like your buyers. They're doing the same thing that we did, and we want to give this house to them. Their offer is a little bit lower, but that's okay because we really like their story. As a home
Jordan,
buyer,
I can speak to that real quick if you want.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was actually a house that you helped us purchase. So it was an elderly lady selling the property, and it technically was in an area of, it's a neighborhood with bigger lots, and it technically was one of the lots that was zoned that it could go commercial at a later date. The HOA rules dictated that, so it could go that way. And I believe what she had in front of her was a cash offer, which could very likely mean they're taking it and turning it into a commercial property. And they had our offer, which was still like a great offer above asking price, but we wrote this really nice cover letter and told her how much we liked the property and the trees. And we saw that she had this and that, and how we sort of pictured ourselves living there and that sort of thing. And that kind of pulled at her heartstrings because she really wanted the property to go to somebody that was going to live there and love it like she did, and not potentially turn it into something different or commercial. So again, yeah, cover letters can really tug at those heartstrings, which sometimes, again, any extra advantage that you can get is really great.
Yeah, and this is arguably the only thing not binary that you're going to get in the offer. So everything else is just a compilation of words and letters and numbers, and they see it. They don't see anything different about you. They just see, hey, we've got these 5 offers. This one's got this higher number. This one has these better terms. But then when you show up with a cover letter, you stand out. So try to stand out whenever you can. Do whatever you can to come in strong. I cannot recommend cover letters enough. They work. People will tell you all these reasons why you shouldn't do one, or maybe it just seems difficult. Keep it simple, guys. I have a template I use now that I give out to clients, but put a picture of you up there with your, if you got dogs and cats, get everything together. Get your dog, get your cats, get your kids, get everybody together. Put a picture up in the top corner there, like your Christmas picture or something. Then talk about why you love their property and about you, why you want to move in. So it's this real simple picture about you, why you love the property. Don't make it complicated. Don't make it too long, but don't make it too short either. So option period, due diligence time. Home inspections are always recommended. I think everybody I know that it doesn't just have the means to knock the house over is going to do a home inspection. Maybe that means just specific things if you are going to tear the house down, but even if you're going to tear the house down, I know Becca, you guys inspected the well. You know, there's a well on the property. Like, they want to know, is this water safe to drink? Is this well okay? You know, what are we doing here before we buy this property? Maybe we're going to build a new house here, but we need to know, is this the right place for us to live? I love home inspections. I always recommend home inspections. Know with home inspections that the report is going to read like a dictionary of all the things that you need to fix in the house. It's not, these are huge concerns that you have to fix right now. Go to the end of home inspections or talk to the home inspector after the inspection to understand what your real issues are. They have to write these reports in a way that make it look like everything is a huge issue. And when you've seen enough of them, like I have, you know that they sound different than they actually are. So talk to the inspector after. He'll tell you the few issues you really need to pay attention to. Like, hey, there's mold in this area. This mold needs to get taken care of. Or, hey, this sink leaks. You know, but they're going to have so much stuff in there, it's going to be overwhelming. It is for me. I know it is for everybody else. Make sure you talk to them. That's the important part. I don't really even read them so much anymore. I just want to talk to the inspector. I'll skim through them, but I don't go through them with a fine-tooth comb for me. For clients I do, but you know, talk to the inspector. That's the important part. If the inspector has any concerns with the foundation, get a third-party foundation inspector out there. You can get a foundation company out there, but most likely the foundation repair company is going to tell you that it needs to be fixed. So if you pay a third party, I love the Foundation Guru. They're great. They'll go out there, they measure everything, and they'll tell you if it's actually a problem. I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 times that I have the Foundation Guru out to look at stuff, he said, hey, you could fix this, but it's really not a big deal. So just get an unbiased opinion of what you actually need to do. Get an opinion from somebody that's not doing the work.
Yeah, and if you're not from like the Central Texas area, I think our soil composition can be different than a lot of other areas. And so it's not uncommon to have some cracks or some things in the foundation that look really dramatic and they're actually not.
Yeah. If you're moving here from somewhere else and you hear foundation issues, you're like, oh, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with that. Foundation issues aren't, your house is going to fall down always. You want to get somebody to come out there and tell you. Again, that's what those people are for. Maybe the house is going to fall over. You know, I was thinking about this the other day and talking about this with another realtor. I don't see houses burn down so often. I don't see houses fall over so often. In fact, I've never seen any of this stuff. But if you talk to certain professionals or certain home inspectors, everything's going to burn down. Everything's going to fall over. But where are those houses? So get somebody to come out and look at it for you. I'm not that person. You're probably not that person, but there's somebody out there that's going to tell you what's actually going on. Another one that I really like, sewer scopes. So sewer inspections, they just run a camera down through the sewer pipe. If it's an older home, this is really useful. If it's a newer home, if it's like 90s or newer, 2000s or newer, it's probably just a nice PVC pipe. If there's not a bunch of trees in the front yard, it might not be as much of a big deal to look at. But with older homes that have cast iron or clay pipes for the sewer, you want to get those scoped, because what happens is tree roots break through them, shifting soil breaks them, all sorts of issues. Back to HOAs. So read the HOA docs. Oh, I'm sorry. Read the HOA docs. If you're dealing with an HOA, you want to know the financial health of an HOA. You also want to know what they'll allow you to do. So maybe they will allow rentals, but maybe only a certain length. So maybe you say, hey, I want to live in this condo for a year or 2 years and then rent it out for monthly rentals. They might not allow that. And maybe they don't have any money in the bank. I think that would be a red flag for me. If I look at an HOA and they're taking $250, $300 a month, but they only have $5,000 in a bank account, I know when that roof goes bad, I'm going to get a special assessment. Or when those windows go bad, I'm going to get special assessments. Or when whatever XYZ goes bad, I'm going to be hearing about it and it's going to cost me money. When they have a bunch of money and they're managed well, maybe they're managed by a professional management company, that's probably a much better sign. Personal opinion, I prefer HOAs managed by a professional management company over member managed HOAs. I think member managed HOAs are trying to keep everybody happy. You're trying to keep your neighbors happy. I don't know that always goes well. And I'm speaking a little bit from personal experience there. Getting to closing, I'll definitely let Becca tag in on this because this is a big part of what she does. Once the option period is over, you are not done. You're really almost just getting started, you know, so there's so much more you're going to need to get to your lender. You're going to need to get to the title company. The lender's going to need lots of information from you, especially if you're self-employed. If you're W-2, they're still going to need a lot from you. But if you're self-employed and you have multiple streams of income, they're going to need a lot. So make sure you get it back to them ASAP. This stuff might seem like they're always on you. They always want something, but typically it takes a few minutes to get it to them. Just make sure to get it to them, because while it only might take you a few minutes, if you delay a few days, you've put them behind a few days. So if you come up to the week before closing, you start getting your lender everything, and you wonder why you're not going to close on time, it's probably not your lender. It's probably you. So get them whenever they need, as soon as they need it. What they're usually asking for is documents for the underwriters to look at. Any delay in underwriting, which you're not going to push the underwriters too much. They kind of operate on their own schedule. Becca will talk more about that. But if you delay getting them what they need, that's definitely going to cause delays in closing, which are potentially going to cause major problems for you. You don't want to do that. You know, Becca orders the appraisal day one. Make sure you get everything to your lender so they can order the appraisal ASAP. Again, I'll let Becca talk about this. Slow appraisals are causing the majority of the issues in the Austin real estate market. You want to touch on that, Becca?
Yeah, so just to go backwards, so typically there's 2 times that you go through underwriting, and because you have a financing period, which I know Jordan talked about a little bit earlier, but so you have the option period, let's just say that that's 3 days. You also have a financing period, and that's the time in which you have, if you are getting financing and not buying cash, that is the time that you have to get a conditional underwriting approval from your lender, which means that I need to have sent your loan through underwriting one time, even if it doesn't have all the elements. So right off the bat, it's not going to have the appraisal. It's probably not going to have all that I need from title. It may not have your homeowner's insurance yet, because you may still be deciding, but it's got to have your core income and asset documents for the most part. And sometimes those financing periods, like I have some people asking, you know, for 7 days, which means from the day that you go under contract, 7 days later, I've got to have documents updated and collected and submitted and back from underwriting. And right now underwriting is taking about 2 days. That fluctuates depending on volume. But just kind of keeping that in mind. So ideally you really want to be on top of, you know, following up with me, signing your disclosures, sending updated documents so that I can submit you to underwriting, so that then we can get that conditional approval and still be within your financing period. Because if something happens and the loan doesn't work out, if we figure it out in that financing period, that's one of those times where Jordan mentioned you could still get your earnest money back. So that's just really important. And I always love to be ahead of the game. So I would rather have a conditional underwriting approval and know that we have, you know, maybe we have a couple things that we need from you. Cool. We're going to have those things, you know, maybe you get paid next week and we need an updated pay stub, so that it's so many days within before you're closing. And we know we're going to get that. And then we know we're just waiting on the appraisal. Like I would much rather be in that boat where you can enjoy the process, as opposed to cringing and, you know, having to bug you like, hey, you remember you're going to get me that stuff? Hey, remember you're going to get me that stuff? And then not be able to do a good job on your behalf on our loan end. There's just lots of little boxes and dominoes that happen on my end, and I can make those happen pretty seamlessly as long as you can do your part. And when I, you know, ask you for something, that you're able to send it in, you know, usually within 24, max 48 hours, unless we've chatted and we have a plan because we know it's coming at a certain date and we've expected that and we're good with that sort of thing. So I think those were those 2 things. And then, yeah, I mean, right now appraisals are taking roughly a week to get accepted, meaning we put the job in the system and it takes sometimes a week before an appraiser picks it and says, yes, I will do this job. Here's the due date. And then typically when they accept that job, it's another 2 to 3 weeks for them to get the appraisal in, which means now we're at 3 to 4 weeks to get an appraisal in. So we're already almost at our 30 days. So I like to have everything else as fine-tuned and streamlined as we can, knowing that right now that appraisal piece is taking a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I think what I was really trying to highlight here, guys, is getting a loan. You're not just getting a loan from Becca. Becca's not just saying, hey, I'm gonna fix all this stuff up, I'm gonna figure all this stuff out, and I'm gonna get William a loan. Becca's taking all that information, she's giving it to an underwriter, she's ordering an appraisal, she's kind of the general contractor of your loan. She's making sure it gets done, she's making sure it happens, but it's just such a complicated process that it's a team of people getting you this loan.
Yeah, and keeping in mind too, like the underwriter, we sometimes think about the underwriter as this mean, horrible person that sits behind their desk and just laughs and mocks us. But really their job is to make sure that a loan meets all of the guidelines and is going to work there. Obviously we don't need a repeat of, what happened back in 2008, where we're putting people on loans that they don't really qualify for, sort of thing. So they have to sort of mind their P's and Q's, make sure all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. That is their job. They really see in black and white. Part of what me and my team do is put your information together and paint the picture, tell the story, put a red bow on it, anticipate what their questions are going to be before they even ask them, and go ahead and answer them, so that when they see that loan file, they're just, oh, yep, okay. And they have this and they have that and they have that. So that's what we're trying to do when we ask questions and put things together, is we're trying to put a loan package together that the underwriter, who has to be really scrutinizing, can just kind of check things off.
Awesome. The title company is also going to need stuff from you. You want to get this to them quickly. They're very quick at what they do. They're amazing. Title companies, you almost don't even hear them or see them. But if they need something, they're going to reach out. You want to get it to them quickly so they can get the job done. They're doing all the due diligence on the liens, the title, making sure everything's clear for you to buy this property, and not have somebody come back and say, well, actually, that's my property, or actually, this guy owes me $50,000. So get them what they need quickly. When you're buying a property, you're going to need to be paying attention to your emails. A lot of the times this stuff's going to come in via email. Maybe you don't check email that often. When you're under contract on a property, check your email once or twice a day. Check the email you gave them once or twice a day, and it's going to be way easier.
Make sure you give us a correct and working email too.
Exactly. Yeah. Make sure you give them the right email.
And check your spam folder.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Routinely check your spam folder. Maybe ask your lender, ask the title company, hey, just checking in. Just want to make sure I've got everything for you. Is there anything else you need from me? Becca's not going to hate you if you do that. She's going to say, no, got everything. Thank you so much. We work together as a team to have an easy and on-time closing. If you get your part done, it's going to be a lot easier for everybody involved. I can't tell you how many horrible, we're getting down to the wire, everybody's mad at everybody. That's the not fun part of real estate, where, hey, this is late, that's late, this is your fault. No, actually, that's your fault. Actually, no, it was her fault. Everybody's pointing fingers. Nobody wants to take the blame. It's not fun. So just make sure stuff happens quickly, and it'll be easy. When you're going to closing, make sure you have the down payment ready to go via wire or cashier's check. This hasn't happened in a while, but I can't tell you how many times I've been at closing. Somebody showed up and said, hey, I'm ready to close. And the title representative said, okay, where's the check? Oh, I don't have that. Can I just call my bank or something? I'm like, no, you need to wire it to us, which you can call your bank and ask for a wire, or you need to pick up a check. I've had people run to their banks from the closing table. So we make sure to tell people, make sure to have your down payment ready or a cashier's check ready to go.
Yeah, I usually give people, as soon as the closing department and title company have finalized all their numbers, and then 2 days and at a minimum 1 day before your closing, I'll give you those numbers. Because typically, if you can, you want to wire the money. If you're doing a wire, you want to wire it the day prior to your closing. That way the funds are already there. So you're just signing and then hopefully being able to walk away with the keys. Cashier's check as well, dropping it off early or bringing it with you to closing is really helpful. So
Yeah,
do that before.
yeah, no, I've sat around waiting for funding a fair amount of times, and if you get that stuff there early, it makes it way easier, because you're bringing your down payment, but then most of the money is coming from Becca. Not specifically Becca, but from her company. So remember, they're your biggest partner. Make their life easy, get everything to them ahead of time. It's going to make your life easy in the long run. Bring 2 forms of ID. I know they don't always ask for it, but just want to be safe. Bring a checkbook. Ask them, hey, is there anything else I need to bring? These are the things I'm going to bring. Transfer the utilities over starting the day of closing. So you can call all the utility companies, which are in the seller's disclosures here in Texas. They're not there, ask, find out before closing. And you could transfer them over on the day of closing. Say, hey, I'm moving in on this date, or I'm buying this property on this date. Kick the utilities on for me. I wouldn't go to closing and not have the utilities set up, because if you do and then something crazy like an ice storm happens again, it's going to be uncomfortable for you. It might be expensive. With final walkthroughs, do a final walkthrough, but especially do a final walkthrough if repairs have been agreed on. So if you said, hey, I want a new water heater, I want a new furnace, and I want a new roof, and you agreed on that with the seller, make sure you go check and make sure that stuff happened. So make sure it happens, guys. All right, we are done tonight. Any questions?
Jordan, yeah, we did have a question in the chat from John. What are your thoughts, or has been your experience with unwarrantable condos in Austin? Are they a safe investment or no? Do you want to speak to that first, and I can speak to the lending side of it?
Well, yeah, I can't talk about that too much because I haven't had anybody buy one, because they're not lendable usually, so you can't get a loan on them. Becca, can you explain a little bit why you can't loan on unwarrantable condos?
It's not necessarily that you can't get a loan on them. It's just you're not going to get a traditional loan on them. So it's definitely going to be something more of like a portfolio type loan. And by that portfolio typically will mean more down payment and higher interest rate, and probably a little bit more painful closing process. The reason a condo might be non-warrantable is, for example, if the commercial space, like for me, I would sort of think of like the domain. If those were actually for sale and not rented, that might be a good example of at least being borderline where that might be non-warrantable, because the commercial space is so much more abundant than the actual living space. Another reason might be if the HOA budget is just way out of whack and they have a bunch of people that have not been paying their dues. Different, if they're actually had one that was within a lawsuit, and that was not fun as well. So there's several different reasons why a condo may be non-warrantable. So it would be good, in my experience, I would say, I wouldn't say that it's safe in general, but it could be safe if you find out the reason why it's non-warrantable. Because also it can be non-warrantable if the amount of investors that own the property is more than 50% of owner occupied. So like if that's the reason, or if it's just because the commercial space is more abundant than the living space, well, that might be a safer way to look at the investment. Whereas like if the HOA is totally a muck and their budget's like crazy and people are late and there's litigation pending, that would not be safe. So finding out why it's non-warrantable would be helpful. But yeah, it's just going to be significantly harder. I personally am not able to help you with a non-warrantable condo. So I know it's possible, but it's just a lot harder. So I would do the research of finding out why it's non-warrantable before you go forward. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I think also you got to think about, if non-warrantable and it's not eligible for conforming loans, do you really want to own that? I don't, because the reason real estate is so hot in the US and has been for such a long time is because loans are so easy to get. Like we're talking about tonight, you can bring 3 to 5% down and buy a property. You can move out of it after you're making an investment property. It's so easy to trade and finance real estate in the US, and that's a big reason that it's.
Yeah, if you buy a non-warrantable condo as an investor, essentially you could almost guarantee that only another investor is going to want to buy or be able to buy that from you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I would stay away from it myself, but if it's an amazing investment and you're going to hold on to it forever, maybe. But I think just think about your exit strategies with non-warrantable. It's going to be a lot harder to get out of if it's still non-warrantable. If you can see a clear path out of being warrantable, if you can say, hey, I just got to do this, or this has to happen for it to be warrantable, and it's going to happen, that might be a great investment, because so many people can't buy it now. You buy it, hold on to it, then it's going to be easy to sell. Michael's saying get a repair check for major components. I would say get receipts for this stuff too. You know, if you've got new furnace, new roof, whatever, make sure you just get the receipts for it. Typically the title company will require that, or the lender will require that before you close if it's in the amendment. But yeah, that's good stuff to do. All right, guys, we're at 8:12. We're a little past 8 here. Any other questions? If not, we will log off, and we will be back again here soon.
Our contact info, I put Jordan and my contact info in the chat. So if you have further questions after this, if something just dawns on you, you can reach back out to us as well.
Yeah, I think we're probably all really easy to find on social media. So if you search the Moorhead team, or you search Becca Christensen, which Mortgage Right is your company? Mortgage Right, yeah. Just search Becca Christensen, you'll find her pretty easy. You know, if you search either of our names, you'll find us pretty easy. If you search my name and you can't find me, that's my fault. And
yeah, let us know if that happens. We need to refigure the Google algorithms. Yeah.
I know we work to make it really easy to find us. So reach out if you need anything, guys. We're always here to help. All right. Have a
Thanks,
great
Jordan. Thanks, Becca.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you for Becca and Jordan. You know, y'all are awesome people. I've known y'all for over a year plus